Peace and love, African family. Peace and love. This is Mkondelelo Muraudzi Wakwamasenga, back again to wrap up our conversation that was so abruptly ended, yesterday. So I think we have to conclude this conversation. It is absolutely crucial. It is absolutely fundamental that we continue this conversation. So, and I apologize for that. My only thing is I use my phone as a camera, so perhaps I need to get an actual camera because now when calls come in, it just disrupts everything. But my apologies for that. Let's get into it. So, before I go into it, I must announce that I have been invited as a guest on my brother's podcast, King Said So, Kagiso Shongwane Zinjiva. Will be getting into it, dissecting politics with Mukondeleli Muraudzi Wakwamasenga. Vatsonga na Vavenda are going to be making this thing, lighting it up, man. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. So later on in the evening at 7 p.m., tune in to King Said So. I will be a host on King Said So. And I must also mention that I am involved in the Brothers Project to build the Pan-African School. So yeah, man, let's meet up then also, so that we can dissect politics. We'll be talking about politics in South Africa and politics on the African continent. But today we are continuing with our conversation. Last time I was broken off while I was still talking about the Bambata Rebellion and what it was about. It's always been a struggle for power. From the time the colonial settlers came through, the struggle for resources, for wealth, for opportunity, for power, for land, it was on. You know what I mean? And if you look at the title, I really want to talk about the brutality of the colonial experience. Because, we talk about colonialism. Even our own people want to just gloss over it. We had colonialism, it was bad. Now it's a different world. Now we're free. We're in a free South Africa and all of that. Okay, fine. And oh, by the way, when we were reflecting on those two racial incidents, I wonder where that brother is who said that South Africa is such a wonderful place and we're a rainbow nation, we're together with the whites and everything. I wonder what he thinks about that. I went on his channel to see if he said anything about it. He didn't say anything. These South African patriots, where you at? Tell us how great it is that we are one people with whites. Tell us. When they are showing you blatantly. So what is this? And I listen to these guys and they just talk. There's no historical reference. There's nothing. There's no quote from anyone who did research on something. No data. No nothing. And I go to the comments and I listen to people. No one asks now where the references. What informs your thinking? Tell us something. Reference us to someone. Nothing. So I appreciate that my political development was in an environment where you had to really bring it and you had to make your point and you had to make it very clear, and you had to show and back up your argument. These days, there's no appreciation for scholarship, right? But anyway, I digress. Let's go back to Utul. And I told you, we're talking about the Bambata Rebellion. And I said to you, I think that was the beginning of the landlord-tenant relationship. When the British colonial administration now started to make demands to say, look, you need to pay us tax. But since you're not so much in the money system like that, we have a plan for you to get the money to pay us. Can you imagine the absolute disrespect for us, African men? They're like, no, don't worry, guys. All you need to do is come work for us, create value for us. We pay you whatever we decide we're going to pay you. And then from that, we'll tell you how much tax you need to give. Like, hey, I know, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you just how hectic it was. Now, I'm not going to go through everything that the Thuli Madonsela interview gets into. There's just one point I want to pull out, and I want you to hear what she says. Like I said to you yesterday, I was shocked to hear Uthuli Madonsela saying these things. I know she has spoken on matters of social justice before. I just never heard her talk about colonialism and apartheid like this. Listen to this, right? Listen to this. Let's get into it. Let us get into it. Okay. Time to press play.
When income inequality persists, spatial inequalities persist. So we need to be more intentional in addressing the imbalances that were created by colonialism and apartheid.
Yeah. These imbalances, and it feels like maybe this year for the first time, weren't felt by lower income households alone. It feels like this weak economy, this strenuous financial strain on the country was also made note of by those in higher LSMs, for example, as well, and it's becoming a little bit more widespread. Where did we go wrong?
Well, firstly, we have failed to restructure South Africa from a diamond-shaped economy. So understand that South Africa was never meant to be a society; it was an economy meant for extraction for overseas colonizers.
Did you hear that? Thuli Madonsela says to us, South Africa was never a society. South Africa was always, as she refers to it, a diamond-shaped economic system established for the extraction of wealth for the benefit of the colonial powers in the West. Thuli Madonsela, ladies and gentlemen, advocate former public protector. Did you ever think you would hear this? Thuli Madonsela saying South Africa was never a society. And if you go back to my sort of exploration of the Cape independence and the establishment of Cape Town, the Cape of Good Hope, and all of that, you will see she's correct. This thing was never meant to be a society. The Europeans didn't come here and say they are coming here to spread goodwill, cooperate, collaborate, see how we can share. And that's not what colonialism was about. It was about finding ways to extract. And that's why if you look at the most developed places during colonialism, and even now, it is those places that were the central hubs for economic activity, specifically mining. And you will see the infrastructure, all of it heads to the sea. Very efficient roads and rails and everything going to the sea to take out all the gold and all the diamonds and platinum and everything. That was it. And that's why you see, even to this day, where our people reside is very least developed, because the colonial South Africa and the apartheid South Africa was not concerned with the development of African people. Never. It was about extraction. And to this day, it remains about how do we maintain this extractive relationship where the European powers, America, and all these, your friends there, Uncle Sam and all his friends extract and continue to benefit from our minerals, while we get very little and get the mediocre of the most mediocre of outcomes. Now, I just wanted Uthuli to give us, that lowdown. But now I want us to get to, I want you to see where I'm going with this. We're talking about colonial brutality and deterrence. Last time I ended up talking about deterrence and I explained what it was. This is in the politics between nations, how countries deter each other from attacks, from messing around with each other. And we're going to get to that because for us as Africans, we need to understand that, this kind of moral posturing and, you are wrong, why you're oppressing us, that doesn't work in the world. The world doesn't work that way. And that's why no one responds to these things of ours, the way we cry and complain and all that. The only thing that's respected is power. The United States of America respects those who can do harm to them. That's why they think twice before they mess with Russia, China, Iran, Korea, North Korea. Those guys with nuclear power, those guys who can do serious damage. That's deterrence. You understand? So we haven't established that as Africans. So today I want us to expand on the concept of deterrence, focusing on its absence in African strategies and its impact on the continued disrespect and dehumanization of African people. I was also talking about us understanding why these things continue to happen and why they will continue to happen until we establish deterrence. So, you see, deterrence doesn't only go one way. It's not just about those who are being attacked establishing deterrence. Oh no, the colonial invaders used deterrence to discourage resistance. So even as invaders, they used this deterrence as a key strategy to suppress resistance. So just to give you a few examples, and when I talk about, someone has to come with something of substance that we can chew on when you are trying to make a point. What do I mean by deterrence? I will give you a few names of resistance warriors and freedom fighters whom were not only eliminated, but eliminated in the most brutal of ways, made an example of. Do you understand? And that is deterrence. So in other words, it was like, we need to end this resistance. We need to find one or two that we make an example so that the rest can get the message. You don't mess with the colonial interests. Let's get into it. So historical figures like Mbuya Nehanda of Zimbabwe, read about her, what happened to her. They skinned her alive in front of everyone because she was a big problem for them, having fought them tooth and nail. And they were like, we'll make an example of you. Read about Mbuya Nehanda and how she was taken out. I want you to look at how these individuals were taken out. It's important. Nkosi Hintsa, I believe to this day, his head is in Europe, beheaded, and they took his head as a trophy. Nkosi Cetshwayo, after being conquered, they took him and imprisoned him in England. And, humiliated him so that by the time they brought him back, they had taken pretty much his soul. You know what I mean? Patrice Lumumba, absolutely taken out in the most humiliating ways, and they made sure that it was his friend and comrade who took him out. And all of this was done in front of his woman and child. Look into Lumumba, who was taken out. Steve Biko, pretty much beaten to death by the apartheid police. His ideas were a problem. They were going to disrupt the colonial apartheid project. Chris Hani, taken out brutally, standing in the way of the apartheid colonial project. Muammar Gaddafi, humiliated, taken out for trying to talk about some Pan-African currency that is now going to absolutely make the dollar useless. Uncle Sam was like, no, that's not how this is going to go. So deterrence. And that's why I understand the fear of African politicians and other African leaders, because deterrence was established by the colonial powers. They established deterrence. You understand? And so what I want us to do is to think about this. So please go look into all of these people, because I deal with history. I don't do insinuations and all that stuff. Look at how these individuals were taken out. These are not the only examples. There's a handful of people that I think can sort of help illustrate this point of deterrence. We don't have deterrence, but the colonial powers sure know how to use deterrence. Taking you out, torturing you, you understand? I believe those who were fighting against apartheid and who were imprisoned and beaten and all of that and tortured understand exactly what I'm talking about. I just know it theoretically. I haven't experienced it, but I know those who were there experienced this thing and they would know what we're talking about. Now, these people were brutally targeted to instill fear and crush rebellion, thereby establishing deterrence. That's why I understand, and that's why, I do this video not only for South Africans, but also for those in the diaspora in America and the UK, maybe those who may not understand why, as South Africans, as a numerical majority, we are under this, oppression and under the thumb of the imperialists. And we're not necessarily fighting like that. Deterrence was proper established in Southern Africa. The brutality that was shown. So I think that thing, it's still there somewhere that, we better not mess around with this white man. And South Africans may not admit this thing, but you all know you have this thing at the back of your head. And that's why you will be very harsh to anyone else except for the white man in this country. They can do the most. They can do the most. If I look at what Chidima did and, some of the things that these colonial settlers have done to African people in South Africa, I have a fit. There is no comparison. There is no comparison. African people, get harassed for less than what has been done to us by the colonial settlers. Why don't we deal with the colonial settlers? Confront them. Niyasawa, admit it. Niyabasawa. We gotta have honest reflections about these things, brothers and sisters, if we're to do anything. So, see, these acts created a lasting legacy of fear and demoralization that still affects African leadership and resistance today. Not only in South Africa, in the whole continent, but a bunch of so-called leaders scared to make any kind of move. Even things that won't even cost us anything. These wigs that our judges wear in the courts, that stuff doesn't cost you anything. You just need to put a law and say, from tomorrow, no one is wearing these wigs anymore. It's not going to cost you a thing. But we're so scared, So scared to change anything. I was just listening to a conversation about nationalizing the Reserve Bank, and everyone is so scared. We mustn't. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that even. And the guy who was being asked about this is like, it's a no-brainer. Nationalizing the Reserve Bank is not a revolutionary thing. This is what states that are independent all over the world do. No one has a reserve bank that is owned outside by foreigners that are faceless, that we don't even know. I'm scared. Even talk about it. Even move in that direction. Deterrence was well established, especially here in South Africa. And that's why we always say apartheid was colonialism of a special kind. So, now I want us to really look at how this deterrence shaped African struggles and discuss what it is going to take, you understand, for us to establish effective deterrence, for us to truly be sovereign, because without that deterrence, you can't be sovereign. How are you going to be sovereign? Because it's like being a bully in the playground you know, it's like a bully in the playground, and you are one of the kids there, and you're scrawny and weak. You know, how do you establish deterrence? Can't stand up to the bully if you don't have the muscle. You won't get crushed. That's why South Africa can't really stand up to the US, unless on a diplomatic level. But militarily, forget it. Once it goes that level, we'll pull back and say, "Hi, sorry, Uncle Sam." Oh, hi, Africans. Let's talk about these things. You know, let's talk about these things. So we are looking at the colonial playbook here, so that we can see shawaphi bafethu bashawuphi labantu. Okay, take a listen to this. There's a part where I want to take you through history, but I just want you to hear something that this brother was saying about South Africa and South African sovereignty. Let me just share my screen. Prof. Chris Malikan. I got this video on Land Nolly. Shout out to Land Nolly for bringing this great content to the people. Let's take a listen to what Chris said.
We are a minority and economic.
From the beginning. I want you to hear that.
We are a minority, an economic minority and a numerical majority. Some comrades are talking about a useless majority, right? So we need to change that. But what is it that can unite us? We need to develop a vision that cuts across, regardless of a political party. An overarching vision, African vision for this country. So why is that the case? Because it's our country. The Chinese have their vision. It does not mean that there are no non-Chinese people in China. The Indians have a vision. It does not mean there are no non-Indian people in India. There are people who are not Indians in India. There are people who are not Chinese in China. There are people who are not whites in Britain. But the white people of Britain are determining the agenda of Britain. The black people in Britain, they don't.
Facts. Facts. You tell me where he's got it wrong so far. Now, tell me, is there, do you see, who's this billionaire from Nigeria? Dangote. Is Dangote busy there in Europe controlling things the way Rupert controls things here in South Africa and in Africa? Is Dangote in the UK, in the US, in China, in Russia? Is he there controlling things? Is he in India there controlling things, controlling the economy, controlling the politics, influencing policy? Is that happening? Do we have a Johann Rupert African who is in Europe? Maybe I just don't know. You guys tell me in the comments. Maybe there is such a thing that we've got an African who's running the show in the US, in the UK. Maybe I've missed it. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe I missed it somewhere. All right, Chris, don't give up on me now. Let's get back to it. Skastaka, Chris. Let's go. Hey, Chris, man. Let's go, Chris. Hey, can't afford to be stuck. Oh boy. All right, let me just stop sharing and share again. Because Chris is stuck now. This is the only disadvantage of going live, although the advantages are numerous. Okay, let's try share again. Chris. Chris is breaking it down for us. But for real, brothers and sisters, I want you to show me the African who's running things, calling the shots in Europe and Asia and other places.
Some comrades are talking about the useless majority.
Okay. Hey, the devil doesn't want us to talk about these things. Eh? This is why Christians would say the devil is a lie. Hey, why, man? Why tech? Eh? Why tech? Why don't you want us to talk about these things? Gotta talk about these things. Gotta let Chris talk. No. This is sabotage. This is sabotage.
Right. So we need to change that. But what is it that can unite us? We need to develop a vision that cuts across, regardless of.
Oh, straight up sabotage, as you can see. Okay, let me stop for now. I'll have to come back for part 3. You know, I want technology to operate. Okay, let me try this again. Hopefully this time it will cooperate. Hey, and we still have a lot to cover. But I am not going to cover everything today. As you can see, the tech is not cooperating. But what I'll do is I'll probably do a recording offline to conclude this matter, and then I will post it. But let me just see if I can get Chris to finish his speech, and then maybe I can jump off and come back later. But we must talk about these things. And that's why we're being sabotaged. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I call. All right. Let's see if it's gonna work now.
Why is that the case? Because it's our count.
I know. No. This is not working. I have to come back. I don't know. Keep coming. I know it's not working. Don't know why it's not allowing me to share. Because now the video plays when I'm not sharing. Okay, let's try again. Maybe it's going to work. see. Yeah, it seems to be working better now. Apologies for that. Hopefully it works now.
There are no non-Indian people in India. There are people who are not Indians in India. There are people who are not Chinese in China. There are people who are not whites in Britain. But the white people of Britain are determining the agenda of Britain. The black people in Britain, they don't. It's not their country. They were enslaved there. Their position has not changed. Black Lives Matter, right? But they determine the agenda because it's their country. Somehow we are made to feel guilty if we get together and determine the agenda for this country as African people. So this is what is unique about us. We are the indigenous people of this country. We are the majority. But indigenous people in the US are a minority. They were exterminated. We can understand their position, right? They cannot mount a successful fight against the colonial settler white population in the US. About Trump, they are Americans, yeah, but it's not their country. We should not forget that. There are indigenous people there. They've been exterminated, others pushed down to Latin America. So we understand that it will be difficult for them to dismantle white power in America because they are a numerical minority. Same thing with Australia. The Aborigines are a numerical minority. What's the excuse here?
Come on now. Talk to me, Africans. What's our excuse? Numerical majority, overwhelmingly, like over 80% African in this country. But I'm telling you, that deterrence has something to do with it, that the colonialists implemented, and the demoralizing of our people. In other words, making sure that they ingrain in us this idea that we can't do anything about it. That was important, because how do you dominate a majority? It's part of the strategy, and deterrence is also part of it. Let's listen some more to Chris.
The only way we can explain it is the issue of leadership and the need to develop a vision that unites African people across political parties. We should not be divided by petty issues. We should understand our principal challenge, and what divides us should be secondary. What we need to emphasize now is what unites us. And we share that experience of being dispossessed, of being oppressed or dominated, and of being exploited. We earn the lowest salaries across all the scales.
And by the way, we share this experience with the Namibians, with the Zimbabweans, with the Mozambicans, with the, you understand, with the people of Botswana, with the Zambians. We share this experience of being dispossessed. By the way, South Africans, I thought I should mention that.
No matter how educated you can be, you'll be the lowest earning person in your scale as an African in this country. So we share that experience, and we need to resolve it through power, access to power, and transforming whatever power relations exist. So we need that vision. So even if I form my own small political party, right? But that party, as a minimum, it must have elements of a vision that must come from this house. Because if my political party, my organization, right, my farmers organization, my business organization does not have elements of this vision, it means that it is outside the politics.
I like the examples he makes. Whatever organization you're in, for example, King said so, and the Paseta team, I'm there also, by the way. It's a school, it's education, but it's very clear it's not just any kind of education. In farming, if you're doing farming, your thinking must be very different from just farming, or just doing an enterprise. Everything that we do, we have to be thinking about how it aligns to this idea of dominating the space. I'm not interested in this idea of must coexist. Fine, let's coexist, but let the majority dominate the space. That makes sense. Let us, the majority, dominate the space in the economics, in the politics, in the social space. It only makes sense for me. Not worried about, everyone will have rights. We'll make sure everyone has got rights. The minority are protected and everything. But we'll dominate, we'll decide the direction. It only makes sense. And then everyone will be taken care of. But capital in this country, big business, I'll never agree to it. But they don't have to agree. We just have to make it happen, yo. Just have to make it happen and make sure that whenever anyone of them gets out of line, we establish deterrence. That's all we gotta do. Stop being reactive and emotional. Every time, our people, man. Every time we have something happen, we react. Oh, this is not right. Oh, protest. Interview on TV. Business as usual. What is the strategy is my question. And what are the tactics to get us to realizing the strategy? African. Not this reactionary stuff. We're always reacting. You gotta have a deliberate strategy and plan to solve your problem. Can't be reacting every time you are acted on. And this has been our problem historically. No clear strategy for dealing with our enemies. No, we are waiting for them to do something and then we cry. Who are you crying to and who do you think you're going to cry to? And what must happen? Hey, Africans.
That are in line with the development of African people. We should not be differing over issues of land, issues of empowering African people. Resolutionary Reserve Bank. Both parties agree. The Reserve Bank must be owned by the state. Ayenzeki. Some leaders say, hey, we can't do it, it's too expensive. Can't it we enter the struggle on condition that things are expensive or not? We can't take the land, it's too expensive.
And it's typical of my people to not want to pay the cost for freedom, for true freedom, because there's always going to be a cost. You want land? Cost. You must put something up front to say, I'm willing to pay in this. If it's in blood, are you willing to pay the cost? Because it's not coming through just verbal diarrhea. In the previous episode, I said, just talk. Land. Economic emancipation. There is a cost that must be paid. The question is, are you willing? That's the only question. And my thinking is, I would rather we remain silent until such time that we really understand that we are willing to pay the cost.
Same thing. So, if vision will allow us to be a solid unit, by eliminating what divides us, then we'll be a solid mass. We need to be a solid mass. An Afrikaner or a poor person or an English person, la et Durban, no say, Joes, when they meet you, they are one. They deal with you. We need to be a solid mass.
Facts. Brothers and sisters, this may take a bit of a while, and you'll forgive me, but I want to conclude this. But I think I want to sort of conclude the political bit now. I think maybe later on I'll come back for the more deep historical part. Let me now come to, I think this is the last portion for this particular segment. And again, this is going to coincide with that issue of deterrence, but also the cost it takes to attain freedom and whether or not we are willing to pay for it. When I get to the historical parts, we're going to explore exactly how colonialism took place, expanded, and exactly why to this day those interests remain the same and they continue to dominate the space, the scene, and they will continue to make sure that their interests are protected. You need to understand the depth of it, because if you see the history of it, when you look back in retrospect from where we are now, you will understand why even the idea of taking land, it's not going to be pap and place, Bafik. Ndini woods, azula buswa na nama. Not at all. All right. So now I want to bring in the last segment of my dissertation. Because it feels like that, man. It sure feels like that to me. Like, yo, we're working here, Africans. Okay. So I understand recently there was a Pan-African conference in South Africa. There was an American young man who came through. There was an American young man who came through by the name of Jackson Hinkle. And he really was just trying to explain to us that Uncle Sam, or the United States of America, and the West do not respect anything except for power, force, and how much damage you can do to them. And that is going to determine how they deal with you. If you're some little country that, you know, hardly has any defenses, they're gonna just walk in and look around, see, oh, what's here? Oil, gold, okay, we'll take this and that. That's how it is. But if you are a Russia, if you are a China, they're not doing that. But if you're a South Africa, free for all. Free for all. So I want us to understand this thing. Let's see if we are going to succeed. Hey, let me just stop sharing for a bit and then try to share again, because it looks like the network is doing those things again. Hey, come on now. Gotta finish this. We need to finish this marathon. I don't want to come back, keep coming back. The next time I come back, we need to be concluding this thing. I need to conclude this thing. Okay, I hope we are on now and that you will be able to hear. Young man from the United States of America breaks down for African leaders what it takes to achieve true sovereignty and true liberation. I don't believe he's saying anything that we don't know. You know, I don't think he's saying anything new. And I listened to him. I didn't hear him say anything I didn't already know. But I felt, hey, maybe some people need to
look at the leadership of the young, brave captain.
Yeah. Okay, this network is doing those things now again. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna need to think about this network issue. Can't continue like this. And I do need to do these things live. It just works better. Hey, sabotage. Hmm. Okay. Okay, we're gonna have to start again. We need to start again. But I see the network is not great. Hey, why this sabotage, man? Sabotage. Okay, let us try again. Please bear with me, African family. I will try find a solution to this network thing. It's not one thing, it's the other. I'm trying to fix the image quality, and yeah, I need help, guys. Someone come through and help me with the technical stuff so that I don't have to now be on live and having network issues. Yeah, I think we're good again. Okay, it's up and down, I guess.
You look at the leadership of the young, brave Captain Ibrahim Traore.
Already seeing Russia, Rosatom is talking about bringing nuclear reactors into Burkina Faso, but I hope one day it's nuclear bombs.
Respect, lovely family, you are welcome back to the channel. Guys, at the just ended Pan-Africa Congress in South Africa, an American activist named Jackson Hinkle set fire at the meeting by making reference to the leaders of the Sahel, starting from Ibrahim Traore all the way to the leader of Niger, Hani. Guys, his speech will blow your mind, not because of the weight of the speech, but because he's a white man, an American for that matter. He said things that Africans fail to see and Africans are afraid to say, calling African leaders to take the path of the Sahel, especially what Ibrahim Traore is doing or championing in the Sahel. And I'm going to play with the video. It is mind-blowing. He gave a speech before the meeting started. Let me say at the forum. He made amazing remarks about Ibrahim Traore and the Sahel. And when the meeting finally started, he still brought the fire on the faces of these African leaders, calling them to follow the path of Ibrahim Traore. This young American activist actually used Ibrahim Traore as the curriculum to lecture Pan-Africans. Not surprising, some African leaders find his speech very offensive, but he spoke the truth.
So, man, here's my take on that. And I know some people will say, oh no, but how can this white boy come here and lecture us? Nah, if what he's saying is correct, is correct. And if these old African leaders think that it's offensive, so be it. Be offended. Maybe it'll get some fire under you and get you to change some things. You know what I mean? Why are you offended with this guy lecturing you, but you're not offended with all these Biden and Macron and them lecturing you and telling you what to do? At least what he's saying has got some substance. Let's listen to what this young man says. You don't be surprised one day when I'm talking to Jackson Hinkle on my channel. Don't be surprised. I'm going to bring this brother through. Say, come through, man. Let's talk. Because there's no one who can understand American imperialism better than those who are in it, who come from it. And not only who come from America, but who are white and grew up in that setup. Who can tell you the secrets better? Don't get it twisted. Don't have this thing of, oh, I hate white people, and then you're not going to find strategic ways to use leverage. Let's not be emotional, Africans. Let's be strategic and make sure we win. Can we please, as on live, do that?
Jack is such a genuine person who understands the value and principle of fairness, equality, and true democracy. Jackson Hinkle is an activist who opposes Western system imposed on other nations to cripple their economy. He is opposed to Western sponsored war, and he is also opposed to Western dominance in Africa.
By the way, brothers and sisters, I know this is very long. It's probably going to be an hour, a little over an hour, but please bear with me. Take your time in chewing on this. You can watch it over a period of days if you want, but I will try to clip it up into shorts as well. But I just have to finish this. I cannot keep, because I don't have a lot of time, and my daughter is here with me. So, I have to do all these things. And yeah, so yeah, let's get this done.
He is practically in opposition to imperialism. Although he's a white man and an American for that matter, he supports the struggle of true African freedom, and his government doesn't like him because of his stand on foreign relations. Just like you as an activist in your country fighting your system, he also is an activist in America fighting the Western system. And he also mentioned the reason why Africa needs nuclear bombs and why Africa should not rejoice at Trump winning the US election. So let's listen to part of his speech before the meeting started. And after the video, I'm going to show you some of his mind-blowing tweets about the Sahel.
My name is Jackson Hinkle. What I first have to say is how inspired I am to be in this country, South Africa. As someone, my family sailed to America on the Mayflower. They participated in the American Revolution. They fought in World War II alongside Red Army soldiers. They fought in the U.S. Civil War against the British imperialists who were trying to break our country apart. I can think of not many other places I'd rather be.
Please take note of, he keeps saying they fought, they fought, they fought. And towards the end of his speech, you're going to understand why this is important. Because ultimately, his argument is, if you're not willing to fight, forget. If you're not willing to fight,
visit at some point in my life, then South Africa, which has such a deep revolutionary history, especially today. In the last panel, I was extremely inspired by those who were talking about land. Land is the primary contradiction, and it is what defines our struggles. And it's the reason why I think Africa has so many of the problems that they have today, that you are all facing today. Because Africa, as we all know, is the richest continent.
Hey, we're being sabotaged today. Satan doesn't want to hear that.
On the face of the earth. But
we're gonna get this done. We are going to get this done. We're going to get this done one way or the other. No way. No way, brothers and sisters. I need you to hear this. This is perhaps one of the most important parts of this conversation. And I gotta get you to hear this. Come on now, let's go. I like these things of tech. Yeah, I think the mistake I made was installing WhatsApp on my laptop. That was the mistake, because now messages.
One thing that those in America and those in the United Kingdom and
All right, brothers and sisters. I apologize again for taking up your time with this, but I think I've figured out what the problem is. I need to uninstall WhatsApp on my machine. Otherwise, it's gonna keep on doing this. Okay, just trying to free up some space. Let's see how we go. Oh, hey, King, thanks for the message, man. I see the message. Ish, I need to finish this, King. Oh, I cannot, stop this and then come back again. But thanks so much, brother, man. Rekaufel later on. Rerote. Again, a reminder, later on at 7 in the evening, myself, my brother King Cetshwayo, we are going to be having a special, conversation on his channel. He'll be hosting me. We will be discussing South African politics, and we will be discussing African politics in general. So yeah, and I see the messages keep coming in on this WhatsApp thing. So I'm gonna, after this, I need to uninstall this thing. It's just slowing my machine down and I can't function. But let me try finish this up. Ish, it's getting to frustrate me. But let me calm down and get this done. Let's get the job done, brothers and sisters. Once I get this out there for you, you can at least engage with it. And, some of the conversations maybe we won't need to go back to, that we keep having that I feel are unnecessary Africans. Perhaps we will put a lot of the things to rest. All right, let's see. Hey, still, man. Still quite slow. But let's see if it will go on. Okay.
Those in Europe seem not to understand is that Africa is not.
Oh. Okay, I have no choice, guy. I'm gonna have to stop, because now I'm just wasting your time. I'll just have to come back, and I'm just gonna have to. We'll come back. When we come back, we'll start with this brother here, and continue on. But I can't continue like this. I need to get rid of this WhatsApp and try free up some space so it doesn't overload my computer. But yeah, brothers and sisters, I hope you are getting the message. We're talking about deterrence here, and we need deterrence. If we're to be respected, if you don't want a repeat of what happened with Santa Claus and our sister crying, our children being traumatized, and people calling you baboons in your own country, deterrence. No other way. You can't beg for respect. You can't beg for dignity. You take your dignity through deterrence. They say, they are always saying, these motivational people, you teach people how to treat you. So let me leave you on that note, African family. I think I'm going to have to just come back later once I have solved these issues with the network and everything. But I hope I've given you enough to chew on for now. Brothers and sisters, one love. Let's catch up also on King Cetshwayo at 7 p.m. I'll be with your boy Kagiso Hlongwane Zinjiva. Yeah, it'll be Kagiso Hlongwane Zinjiva with Mkondeleli Muraudzi wa Kwamasenga. are explosive. Two royal bloodlines. Yo. And the way that Watsonga and Wavenda have always had this nonsensical beef. Ha, my brother. It's not a chance that we got together. Gonna solve this thing and put it to rest. That and show them there's no conflict. You know, we are one people. One love, African family. See you soon.